Hello, everybody, and welcome to the ExoCast. My name is Matthew, and today we have some very interesting events developing. Tulsi Gabbard announced that she will be stepping down from her role as the official Director of National Intelligence by June 30th, 2026, to be there for her husband, Abraham Williams, who is apparently suffering from a rare form of bone cancer. First off, I'd like to offer my own condolences first to the ODNI head and family, and to encourage everybody who's watching today to pray over their family. For others, this resignation has set off some alarm bells because of their assumption of these underground friction points. This is obviously a severe blow to the Trump administration's intelligence structure in differing ways. She is the fourth high-profile cabinet departure in 2026 alone, following Kristi Noem from the Department of Homeland Security. We have Pam Bondi from the Department of Justice and Lori Chavez de Rimmer from the Department of Labor. We were told later today that Principal Deputy Director of National Intelligence, Aaron Lukas, a veteran former Central Intelligence Agency undercover officer and station chief, will be going to take over as acting director. Previously, he served as the Deputy Senior Director for Europe and Russia at the National Security Council under the first Trump administration. Some people are postulating different hypotheses other than the rare form of bone cancer diagnosis, which we are going to delve into a little more detail. So the first thing we're going to discuss is the strategic split over the Iran war. Gabbard built her entire political identity on anti-interventionism. Just days ago, Gabbard testified before the Senate Intelligence Committee that U.S. strikes had obliterated Iran's nuclear capabilities and that Iran was not actively rebuilding them. But this directly contradicted the White House's messaging of an imminent threat. Her stance mirrored that of Joe Kent, the former National Counterterrorism Center director, who resigned in March over his explicit opposition to the Iranian conflict. Insiders postulate that Gabbard's careful non-endorsement of the war meant that she no longer had the president's ear, which was the ultimate kiss of death for the Director of National Intelligence. We've also seen reports that Iran is actually rebuilding their military capabilities and potentials, and they're bringing more armaments back. And so the second thing we can entertain is the possibility of the Fulton County overreach. Earlier in the year, Gabbard drew immense fire from Capitol Hill for her physical presence alongside the Federal Bureau of Investigation during a search of an election office in Fulton County, Georgia. The DNI's mandate is strictly foreign intelligence. Getting tangled in domestic law enforcement and the 2020 election material caused massive systemic headaches within the ODNI and alienated career intelligence professionals. And finally, we have this deep state war and bureaucratic pushback. Reports from sources familiar with the White House imply that officials had been pressuring Gabbard to exit for months. During her 15 months, Gabbard aggressively pursued a mandate to reshape the intelligence community. She slashed the ODNI staff by roughly 40%, cutting nearly 1,300 personnel to save $700 million annually. She dissolved DEI policies and programs and forced the massive declassification of over 500,000 historical documents, which included the JFK files and Crossfire Hurricane records. And so this scorched earth approach to the bureaucracy resulted in an intelligence sector whistleblower complaint accusing her of withholding intelligence for political reasons, the sources of which most point back to PBS or Washington Post, depending on who you're looking at. And so, what are the next steps? Well, first we have to look at this through the lens of government agencies. There's been a long rivalry between agencies, especially the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the Central Intelligence Agency, and even the National Security Agency. What we see next is, because of this vacuum until Aaron Lukas takes the reign, that CIA Director John Ratcliffe will gain significant bureaucratic leverage. We are seeing the shift back to the favor of the CIA as Ratcliffe enjoys closer ties to the president's international security circle. There are some rumors going around that Michael Ellis, who was Ratcliffe's current deputy, will take the permanent DNI slot. Senate Democrats led by Mark Warner and Chuck Schumer have already signaled a massive confirmation fight, warning against rewarding loyalty over competence in their own words during an active war. The true institutional shift between Gabbard and Lukas is a fundamental divergence in threat prioritization. See, Gabbard focused on stopping Middle Eastern interventions like nuclear escalation, while Lukas's background signals a return to classic Cold War European containment. Gabbard viewed Iran as a dangerous catalyst for unnecessary global escalations. Her focus was heavily trained on preventing the U.S. from being dragged into broader conflicts, especially those that were ground-based in the Levant. Lukas is a career CIA ops officer who later served as the Deputy Senior Director for Europe and Russia at the National Security Council. His entire analytical posture is geared towards Moscow. Some analysts are postulating that his elevation means the ODNI will immediately deprioritize Middle Eastern counterterrorism policing to focus on counter-Russian containment. This will also change how the U.S. counters its adversaries. We are going to see a shift into subsurface conflicts. While the Middle East theater was dominated by these loud kinetic drone strikes and ballistic missile defenses, the European theater under Lukas will emphasize countering Russian hybrid warfare. We're going to see things like undersea infrastructure vulnerabilities, the monitoring of Russian submarine activities near transatlantic fiber optic cables and energy pipelines. We'll see GPS jamming and spoofing networks, countering Russian electronic warfare nodes in the Baltic region that are currently disrupting European commercial aviation, and asymmetric sabotage, where they will actively investigate the rise of mysterious arson and industrial espionage targeting European defense manufacturing plants. To summarize, instead of declassification and escalation risks, we're going to possibly see more on Gerasimov doctrine execution, Russian gray zone operations, and Baltic security. A transition to classical, highly classified human intelligence and deep penetration signals intelligence, and the strengthening of bilateral intelligence sharing pipelines with frontline Baltic states and even Poland. The departure of Tulsi Gabbard is more than an administrative shakeup. It is a structural realignment of the United States intelligence apparatus and posture. By moving from a DNI, which prioritized anti-interventionism in the Middle East, to this acting director who spent his career dissecting Russian operational doctrines, Washington is signaling a quiet but definitive shift. The focus is moving away from the hot kinetic conflicts of the desert and returning firmly to the cold, electronic, and covert gray zone battlefields of Eastern Europe. We will possibly see a return to Washington to Brussels intelligence sharing through Five Eyes networks, intelligence operations centered around the Suwalki Gap and the Baltic Corridor. We'll see real-time intelligence feeds to Poland or Romania, like synthetic aperture radar imagery that will track Russian movements through cloud cover or night conditions. We may see predictive counter-sabotage efforts, sharing civilian threat vectors directly with European domestic security agencies. Russia has been heavily utilizing electronic warfare from Kaliningrad to spoof commercial flight navigations across Poland and the Nordics. Under Lukas, the U.S. is highly likely to declassify and share real-world electronic signatures of these Russian EW systems, allowing NATO allies to develop active software communications for their own defense hardware. Lukas's tenure will inevitably prioritize the monitoring of joint maritime corridors. U.S. underwater sensor data regarding Russian hydrographic research vessels, often used to map Nordic wind farms and telecom cables, will see streamlined delivery to joint NATO commands, like the new Maritime Center for Security of Critical Undersea Infrastructure. For over a year, capitals from Warsaw to Tallinn worried that Washington's intelligence leads was deeply skeptical of their security reality. Lukas will bring a career-long focus on counter-Russian doctrine. His elevation signals to the Kremlin that the intelligence bridge between the U.S. and its frontline allies hasn't just been repaired, it's being reinforced. And so let me know what you guys think of this development down in the comments. Please like, share, and subscribe for more breaking news. I hope y'all have a blessed day. Thanks again. Bye for now.